bodies in the millions, and we will be. Because it starts right here.
Guilty!
Welcome to a new episode of Naptown People's Radio, a weekly podcast brought to you by the Indianapolis branch of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm your host, Dani Abdullah, and I'm joined by my comrade and co-host,
Derek Ford.
We're here to guide you through the pressing issues facing Indianapolis from the perspective of our people, not our oppressors. And as organizers involved in these issues, we're not just talking about the news, we're making it happen. So today, Derek and I are going to be delving into the housing crisis in Indianapolis and demonstrating how unnecessary and absurd it is in comparison with how a socialist government could not just fix, but prevent it from happening in the first place. But before we dive into the steep housing crisis we're facing here in Naptown, let's hear from Derek and the Naptown Breakdown. So what's happening in Naptown, Derek?
All right, so it was a busy weekend. Of course, we had a grand opening, which was amazing on Friday. Thank you to everybody who came out, who spoke. Nikki Schumpert, Dr. Malika Clary, Gloria La Riva, of course, Dani Abdullah, amazing speaker.
Derek Ford.
The very next day, later that night, we were building placards, mobilizing for a demonstration the very next day, Saturday at Monument Circle, that was led by Answer in Indiana and the PSL Indy. And we mobilized with thousands of people across the country. Over 60 demonstrations took place that day in solidarity with the Venezuelan people and to demand no war in Venezuela and stop the war before it starts. And, we merged with a redistricting demonstration hosted by We the People, Indy United, at the State House. So these two events may seem unrelated, but, the looming war on Venezuela and the redistricting effort are two current events where the right-wing ruling class is attempting to grow their power at home and abroad. Both of these plans are currently in motion. On Monday, the Indiana Senate Elections Committee passed the redistricting bill, so it will be subjected to a full Senate vote. In the Caribbean, U.S. military assets are being mobilized with repeated bombing simulations being flown off the coast of Caracas, intended to intimidate and terrorize the people of Venezuela. And if you can only imagine what, if Venezuela was holding simulated bombing campaigns off the coast of New York City, what the United States would do. But Venezuela remained restrained, so shout out to them. And, in both cases, the ruling class wants to set back, the gains won in the U.S., and they want a regime change for the gains won in Venezuela. And of course, the reason why there's never any money for anything in the U.S. is because there's always billions and trillions of dollars for war abroad, right? But at the demonstration, we were able to talk to several organizers and attendees at the rally to see what they thought about redistricting, the war in Venezuela, and how both are connected. So we're going to play some clips from organizer Amy Clayla with We the People, Indy United, followed by Olivia, who was there after the Venezuela protests, merged with the group, and finally from Rose and Kiara.
Can you describe how people are impacted with both, like the war and the redistricting?
People are impacted because, one, they don't want redistricting, and they don't want a war with Venezuela. We don't need to be in a war. If our true meaning behind America first, why are we attacking other countries? Okay, let's take care of our own here first. We have veterans that are in need, and we keep stripping veterans' rights every day. We have homeless people living on the streets, shouldn't be. There's too many things that are taken away from people. Food stamps. Our insurance is going to go away with higher premiums really, really soon if they don't come together and bipartisan and make a bill that passes that covers everything that we need to have.
Today's action became a combination of two, the redistricting and the war. Can you describe the connection between the two for me?
It's like what they were saying up there, that it's the fight at home is tied to the fight abroad. It's all linked to international imperialism and capitalism, and we need to, as working class people, unite to fight against it here and abroad.
What made y'all come out tonight or today?
doing the right thing.
Yeah, we care about what's going on in Venezuela and to our neighbors in general, or to people around the globe who are oppressed. We just fight for oppression. That's just our general. That's just how we operate. We just fight. We fight against oppression.
This is a combined protest for the war in Venezuela and the redistricting of Indiana. What is the connection between the two?
Oh, lots. I think that not only are we looking at the political ties of a tyrannical government trying to get their hands in not only taking away well-being from the people in our country, but taking away long-standing well-being for people in other countries. Using the veil of weaponized intervention with the intention of helping another foreign country is never truly what's happening.
So as you can tell, it's clear that the working people here don't agree with these undemocratic actions, redrawing maps for political gain. What does the alternative look like? First off, under a socialist system, we wouldn't be waging imperialist wars of aggression against any other countries. Second, we would fundamentally alter the system of rule and governance to be truly democratic and a participatory process, one that we vote on things that actually matter to us. And we, the working people, would be in control, making decisions, not a select few of wealthy individuals. So to realize this alternative, that's why we're here, building a movement, not just a socialist movement, but a progressive movement in Indianapolis. So, if you're a socialist, get involved with the PSL. If you're a progressive, get involved with any group at the Liberation Center, because there are many issues to address. Sad news to report, Brittany Kavanaugh, just before 2 a.m. on Saturday, was murdered by her ex-boyfriend. Our condolences go out to her family, including Dani, actually. Brittany had been encouraged by loved ones to file police reports and get a restraining order against her ex because he made multiple threats of violence and even shot into her car. She was in frequent communication with the cops and still lost her life on Saturday. And after her death was reported to the media, there was still an investigation taking place. Her boyfriend was the one solving the crime for IMPD, letting them know who the murderer was and even giving them evidence as to what gun was used. So the cops doing their jobs, because that's what they're there to do, and not even doing their jobs. They're having other people do their dirt for them, in this case. Speaking of how the U.S. ruling class hates women, Indiana's Family First Workplace will begin allowing some state employees to bring their infants to work under a pilot program announced December 2nd by Governor Mike Braun and detailed in a newly issued policy, which comes several months after his administration ended hybrid schedules for most state workers. The initiative already launched for staff in the governor's office and a few other departments. The governor said the effort is part of Indiana's commitment to, quote, strengthening families, supporting parents in the workforce, and promoting healthy childhood development. Because every childhood developmental psychologist and a researcher knows that the best thing for a child is to go to work. So Braun said, quote, Indiana is going to lead the nation in pro-family policy. The parental bonding that happens in the first month of a child's life are irreplaceable. And our new Family First Workplace pilot program helps parents stay connected to their newborns while continuing their careers. Indiana is building a culture that puts families first, end quote. Interestingly, there are so many ways that can happen, like paid maternity leave, paid paternity leave, paid parental leave. And because I would say that the parental bonding that happens in the first months of a child's life that are irreplaceable to Braun are going to be much better spent in the home and the community than in some stale-ass workplace. I don't know about you, but that's just me. So the governor, announced this following an executive order issued earlier this year, expanding paid childbirth leave and parental leave, as well as paid leave for state employees who experience stillbirth or infant loss. So the new 4-page policy officially took effect with the announcement on December 2nd. And it doesn't take into account if a family adopts a child who's older than 6 months and still not at school age, nor does it take into account other issues that affect, children, families, because everyone is unique. Meanwhile, outside the U.S., maternity leave varies, paternity leave varies, but is generally very generous, right? With many countries offering like months of paid leave, unlike the U.S.'s lack of a national paid leave plan. Averages hover around 18 weeks in quote-unquote developed nations. Sweden, Bulgaria, Estonia, the latter two not really being rich countries, provide a year, often with a high pay replacement of 80 to 100% and shared parental options, making the U.S. a significant outlier among quote-unquote developed nations. Well, actually,
I was going to say, I think developing, actually.
Yeah. Hopefully we will soon be developing. Yeah, Dani mentioned that we're going to be talking about the housing crisis, but just as a little teaser, the housing crisis isn't just about rising rents. It's also about what we use to pay those rents, right? Paychecks that haven't kept up. For thousands of us, full-time work no longer guarantees any housing stability. A 2025 report indicated that a full-time worker in Indiana must earn $22.18 an hour to afford a modest 2-bedroom apartment at fair market rent. But the average Indiana renter earns just $18.05 an hour. So that $4 wage gap adds up to over $8,500 in lost annual earning power. Money that could be used for childcare, medical bills, keeping the lights on, keeping AES off your back. So it's not just about averages, of course. For renters at the lowest end of the spectrum, those earning 30% or less of the area's median income, the situation is, of course, more dire. For them, affordable rent is just $722 a month, a full $431 short of what it costs to rent a modest 2-bedroom apartment. So this affordability crisis affects seniors, caregivers, low-wage workers, people with disabilities, disabled people, and others who are left out of the mainstream housing markets altogether. So unlike other states in the Midwest that have raised wages or invested in rent support, Indiana lags behind and is moving backwards. Also, rent prices for single-family homes increased by over 40% from 2019 to 2025. Unbelievable. And the vacancy rate reached a 15-plus low of 3.9% in 2024 in Marion County and 4.2% in the Indianapolis metro area, which is considered a far below a healthy vacancy rate when you think about actually how many rooms that represents. So we're going to get into that a little bit more in the next segment. For now, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So, thinking about Brittany and the tragedy that happened to my family this weekend, and just the comparison to Amanda Jones, who we talked about last week, right? It's a very, very similar situation. Yeah. Brittany was one of my relatives, who I won't call out, but one of my relatives' girlfriend. And he's the one who's been like, I literally have bullet fragments that were in her car, and I'm sure that they are the same bullets from the gun that shot her in her face this morning. And like I said, just very similar to Amanda. And you all are not going to do anything until somebody's dead.
And even then.
I was going to say, and even then with Brittany's case, still didn't do anything. They did finally call my relative back hours later.
They don't even watch cop shows, Come on. One episode of Law and Order, you know what to do.
Right. That's all you need is Law and Order. But it's sickening how this country, but we're talking about Naptown right now, but how the city and this state in particular, do not protect women, right? Whether it's Amanda and Brittany, whether it's, this I would have hated to bring my son to work with me when he was 6 weeks old, when he was 10 weeks old, which is what they're proposing. 10 weeks old, you're bringing your baby to work.
It's basically bringing me to work with you.
It is very similar. It is extremely similar. You and my child act very similar, actually.
Shout out to Azim.
Shout out to Azim. But why in the world is that the solution, right? It's not it's not providing more maternity and paternity leave. That, those, and they're mainly just talking about maternity leave, right? They're not talking about dads at all. So I guess if you're a dad, then I don't know, figure it out. I guess you're just.
And they wonder why there's like problems of patriarchy, misogyny.
Yeah.
Blah, blah.
And also I love kids. I absolutely adore kids. I would absolutely hate if my coworker brought in their 10-week-old. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing at work now?
Like Braun, see, the thing is, Braun flies around in private jets probably. So I think he should only fly coach next to a bunch of kids.
There we go.
For like a week.
Yeah.
And then we'll see. So we'll see.
Let's see if
about
he's
how great
still,
it is.
if he's still like, yeah, this is the solution. Bring your kid to work every day. Like that's insanity. But like, this is still violence upon women, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Here's the solution: doing 2 full-time jobs at the same exact time.
Yeah.
Like, that's the solution, doing that. And then, like you said, it doesn't take into account, what if I adopt a child who's 7 months old? What if I adopt a child who is 4, right? What if I just adopt a child and I need to spend time with them? I need to get to know them. Maybe they're 12, but like, I would love to spend time with my child. I would love to have like some unsolicited time with my kid, and I can't do that because Braun doesn't care about children, obviously.
Yeah.
Right?
Families, even though,
Yeah.
family first, whatever, but it's really family
Families
last.
first.
Families first, you pay us enough to live in decent housing.
Exactly. Right? It goes back to the housing. You're absolutely right. Like, you care about, it's families first, but people can't even afford to house their families.
Yeah.
Right? Like, can't even, like, I have to choose between, do I pay my rent or do I pay for food?
Yep.
Or do I keep the lights on for a house that I can't afford? Like, what? Like, this is all an act of violence upon everyone.
More and more people experience that. It's not like it's a new thing, but more and more are experiencing that.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're just told that it's our fault. Like, well, we should have taken better courses in high school or gotten better grades or gone to college, whatever. But I think that that's why like this show is so important, is because that's what the media says. They're not talking about the real reasons for it, like the systemic reasons for it. It's not because you didn't work hard enough or made bad choices. It's because of the system.
Absolutely.
And so once people understand that, there's like a light bulb moment. It's like, oh, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? We can actually do something about it because it doesn't make any sense and it shouldn't make any sense.
Absolutely.
So let's make it make sense.
Absolutely.
By changing the conditions and the system.
Yeah. I mean, like, minimum wage, the price of living has gone up. 2019 is the year I gave birth, actually. So like, that year is embedded in my brain, but
it's a baseline.
Yeah, it is. But like 2019, and the price of living has gone up every year. I remember the year I started working, like, an actual job where I got taxes taken out of my paycheck. I was working before that, but I started working at Taco Bell, and that was the year that Indiana started paying $7.25. Like, that was the minimum wage went up, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool, $7.25, and everybody was like so excited. It's been over 15 years, and the minimum wage is still $7.25. People at Taco Bell are still making $7.25 an hour.
And they're doing God's work.
I mean, like, I'm biased, but like, people at Taco Bell are working hard, man. Like, working real hard and making $7.25 an hour. And the cost of living you need to make at least, 22 something, right?
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, it totally has to do with you're not working hard enough. And
Jeff Bezos, by the way.
Jeff
killing it every single hour.
Killing it every hour. I don't know what he does. Every hour.
I'd like to have a
but
camera
he
on him.
makes $8 million an hour.
If you just told us what he did, we could all do that, right?
I don't want to oppress people, Derek. I actually have no desire.
Well, I could do
to
like,
do that.
we could do like, what, 1/10 of that.
Okay. 1/10 of oppression? Or?
No, 1/10 of. Yeah.
Okay.
If we assume that he's actually earning his money.
1/10 of what he is doing. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Which is
All right.
nothing. So actually,
which is
count me
nothing.
in.
I could do that. That's true. I could do nothing. That's fair. And I only need like 1 million.
Shit.
Like 1 million. I would think I'd be fine. But yeah. I'm glad that we had that breakdown. I mean, it is the Naptown breakdown, but like that breakdown of like the numbers, because it is a systemic issue, right? Like it is not a personal issue. It is not your fault that it is so hard to make ends meet.
Yep. We're all in the same boat, and a rising tide lifts all of us. So let's get together and make that tide rise.
I love that. That was beautiful. Okay. All right. We're going to end it there. That's it for the Naptown Breakdown. We will be right back.
My name is Lindsay, and I'm a volunteer with the Indianapolis Liberation Center. And we're excited to announce that we have officially opened our first storefront here in Fountain Square on 1619 Prospect Street. Our center offers products you can't find anywhere else. From revolutionary texts, posters, stickers, t-shirts, you name it, there's something for everyone. And even better, you can rest assured that your purchase is going to a good cause. Unlike other major stores where the profit goes straight to the billionaires, all proceeds here at the ILC go directly back to our community. Be sure to stop by and bring your friends. Every purchase helps support our work to make Indianapolis a better place.
And welcome back to Naptown People's Radio. I'm still here with my co-host, Dani Abdullah. And we are going to be talking in this segment about Indiana's and Indianapolis's housing crisis. Last episode, during the Naptown Breakdown, we talked about Joe Hogstad's 2018 plan to end homelessness by 2023, which was clearly meant for public consumption and not his real estate developer friends and financial backers. So, but it's one thing to critique them for not doing anything or really trying to. But what we need to do is more than critique. We need to show what is actually possible. What's possible not when we get the right person elected, but when ordinary people, everyday people like you and me, are mobilized to do something that we care about, provide for ourselves, each other, and our communities, making a better city for all. Now, a July 2024 report by the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority found that almost 5,000 people were homeless in Indiana on January 24th. So that includes people in emergency shelters, people sleeping in their cars, and on the streets. You'll never guess the particular demographics of those who are on the streets, Dani.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea.
Well, if you were to take a guess, though, what would it be?
It has to be the billionaires, right? Those are the ones who don't have housing right now.
Maybe. Well, the ones who aren't working hard enough.
I'm assuming people who look like me, right?
Actually, people who look just like you.
Just like me. Oh, my God.
More than 1/3 of those who lived in places not meant for housing or even shelter were women. Black people made up 21.2% of the homeless population, accounting for only 10.2% of the state's population. And 25% were under 24 years of age, and 20% were over 50. Now, of course, it's because of a lack of housing, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's not like they're building housing I feel like actually they're about to build more housing just by my neighborhood right now. On the east side, that's all they keep doing is just like building more houses.
They're turning the old jail into apartments.
Are they really?
Yeah, they really are.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
They just did that a couple years ago to an asylum. Like they turned it into apartments, and I was like, "What is?"
It happens a lot with schools,
happening?
But I was like,
yeah.
I was like, I bet those will be a condos soon enough,
Wow.
Jeez, yeah. So wrong. It's not because it's lack of housing. What's the real cause of it? In downtown Indianapolis alone, the vacancy rate is like 22%. So estimates over like how many units there are vary from 5,000 to like 14,000. But let's take the low end, right? The most conservative number of 5,000. That leaves us with 1,100 vacant luxury units sitting empty. So eventually some, out-of-state corporation can take more of our hard-earned money from us.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, on any given night in Indianapolis in 2025, there were 1,800 homeless people. Considering many are families and couples, right? This means we could house almost all of them immediately, and not in like some emergency shelter, but in like a housing they deserve, right? And that's just miles square in downtown. Marion County has around 2,416 vacant houses and units right now. So we could easily and immediately house the 1,800 homeless people and still have housing left over.
See, like, that's something I already knew, like, right? People are listening to this and they're learning that. But every time I hear that or I think about that, which, shocker, I think about that actually very frequently. I feel like I can't help but be like pissed off. Like every time I hear that, the fact that there are people, neighbors, like outside, it's freezing right now. I mean, even if it wasn't freezing, but still it's freezing right now. And we have enough housing for every single last one of them in this city, right? If we just gave it to them.
Yes. And so why can't we give it to them? What's the underlying cause?
I feel like you don't want me to say capitalism, so.
Well, it's a foundational element of capitalism.
Okay. All right.
Private property, right?
Private property.
You know, I mean, because they're private property. And so that's a sacrosanct thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's why even the courts are powerless against these slumlords, you know, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and here's the thing, though, is that did Jeff Bezos make those houses himself? You know,
absolutely not.
Did the real estate developers make those houses?
Absolutely not.
Who made those houses?
The workers did.
Workers, yeah. Many of the workers are probably homeless right now, right?
God, the irony, yeah.
Yeah, and just the absurdity, right? Like they are the ones making the housing, and then there's a housing crisis, and they're kicked out of their housing because they made too much housing. Like only under capitalism does that contradiction exist, and like that's why we need to eliminate capitalism and eliminate that contradiction, because we also don't need like too many houses. What good does that do for the environment, for neighborhoods, everything, you know?
Right. Animals. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, we could think about, it's hard to compare, you know, it's not like 1950 anymore when you can just be like, oh, well, in the Soviet Union, blah, 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 or like in this, you know, socialist country, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, Venezuela offers a really interesting, compelling, and persuasive argument about what everyday people, when mobilized to do something they care about, can do, like immediately. So before Chavez's election, there was a severe shortage of affordable housing in Venezuela. And so they launched two programs, like habitat programs. One was focused on free housing units and integrated housing units in the cities, and the other was for indigenous communities, primarily the rural peasants and population. So what they did there was they just gave the communal land titles to the country's poor and indigenous peoples. So that meant that like, okay, here you go. Now you own this land.
Wow.
Nobody can take it from you. The U.S. corporation cannot take it from you.
Okay.
Yeah, right? Not bad. And it led to the establishment of over 5,000 land committees representing 5 million Venezuelans, or 25% of the population. 5 million Venezuelans. Anybody know how many people live in Indiana?
Ooh, in Indiana? I don't know that. I know that there's like almost 1 million in Indianapolis. I don't know about Indiana, though.
In 2024, there were 6.92 million people.
Oh, okay.
So they managed to, you know, house 5 million Venezuelans by an act of decree.
Wow.
Immediately. And meanwhile, in last month, Indianapolis announced a plan to fix up 150 to 200 vacant properties in 2026.
Wow.
How ambitious.
Wow. That really puts things in perspective, right? Like, I mean, and these are also things that could happen under like capitalism, right? Like tomorrow, Braun, just like he was like, yeah, take your 10-week-old to work. He could very well be like, all the housing, you know, it's just take it, you know, whatever. But like, why does it take that long? Why does it take a year to fix up housing? Again, I live on the east side. I live on the far east side specifically because that's the real east side, but we're not going to get into that. But they put up those houses within months, like very, very quickly. Like those houses go up so fast. You cannot tell me that they can't fix these houses up just as quickly. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it just shows that like, well, one, you know, as the U.S. like prepares to and is waging war against Venezuela, it shows you why. You know, like when the Cuban Revolution happened in 1959, the U.S. government initially was like, okay, that's fine. And then it wasn't until they kicked the United Fruit Company out, you know, that they were like, oh, and then they were like, the Cuban government was like, oh, we're going to cut electricity rates. And if you live in a house, you now own that house. And then the U.S. government was like, oh, these people are communists. We Bay of Pigs, you know, defeated them. So like that was, again, an act of decree. And the various housing missions continue because, you know, there's a class struggle still waging in Venezuela. It's not a purely socialist country, right?
Yeah,
because if they had a pure socialist revolution, like the U.S. would have intervened militarily immediately, right? The fact that it stood so strong for so long is a testament to like the mobilization of the people. It was in May, just after May Day in 2024, the Venezuelan government delivered 4.9 million homes and unveiled a women-led housing project. And this is part of the Great Housing Mission and its 13th anniversary, providing housing to working class people. So, you know, that's like remarkable. And in a televised broadcast, you know, Maduro handed the apartment keys to a young couple and their child alongside legal authorities because the legal authorities are there to ensure that you are not removed from your housing. Yeah. Because, you know, there it's illegal to be a landlord. In Cuba, you can't be a landlord because that you're a parasite. You know, you're just you're making money off of people suffering. And so, you know, this is just one day, right? But they gave, you know, 388 housing units to Venezuelan families on Tuesday, right? On television. And, you know, weekly on television, there's like updates about this. Some of my comrades in the People's Democracy Party in South Korea went on a housing because they have a plan to turn the massive U.S. military bases in South Korea that occupy South Korea into housing for people.
As they should.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, this is after sanctions and missiles try to destroy Venezuela, after the Juan Guaido joke of a coup, after more serious attempt to coups, you know, after the, like today's threats. So that's why the government hates Venezuela and Cuba, is because they show the absurdity of what we live under and that we don't have to live like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And like having that knowledge is powerful, right? Like if you're able to see what you could attain, right? I think a really good point to like hone in for people is like you said, Venezuela is not purely socialist, right? Like they absolutely have, they still have elements of capitalism there. And
that's what causes the crises.
Right. Right. But they're still able to accomplish so much, right? And again, there's so much that could be accomplished within there's so much that could be accomplished within capitalism, right? And obviously more can be accomplished with socialism, which is the goal here. But like to know that, it doesn't make sense for me to have to pay for housing, right? Like that is a human right. I have the right to housing. I have the right to food. I have the right to water, right? I have the right to live because I'm a human being.
Yeah.
Well, because I'm a being, but we won't get existential today. But like you have the right to live. And Venezuela, Cuba, right? Like so many of these socialist countries are able to like show it's not that hard, right? Like, what did you say? Like 300,000 a day or something? Like, here's the keys to your house.
Yeah.
Like, that would be amazing. That would be great. I don't know if I want to own my house, but I would like to own a house, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily mine,
right.
But yeah.
They fix it up for you. Same thing in in Libya under Gaddafi. Like when you were 18, you got a house. That's just like the way it was. And obviously, like that wasn't a socialist country. That was a social democracy, basically. And the other thing too is like on top of that. So there is still a capitalist class in Venezuela. And so there's a class struggle raging there. And so that's why it's, always so tense. But that's why the people always mobilize to defend the government, and not just the people in Venezuela, but the people worldwide. I mean, under Hugo Chavez, because Venezuela, of course, owns Citgo, right?
Yeah.
The U.S. subsidiary of the energy company. And basically, until the U.S. government made it illegal in 2017, they donated millions and millions of gallons, helping like millions of Americans stay warm, right? Poor and elderly people in cold weather states received 100 gallons of free housing annually, or free heating oil annually. And this was in New York City, it was in Boston. It was everywhere, after Hurricane Katrina, the same thing. They did that. Whenever there was a crisis, they would respond. They didn't send bombs. They didn't send missiles. They didn't send, military advisors. They sent energy so people could stay warm and not freeze to death, And that just goes to show you, the real sharp contrast between these two systems and the people who are, and, the U.S. will say this is checkbook diplomacy. Like, yes. You're trying to buy us off, and it's like, well, like if a government is providing for its people, isn't that just like a good thing?
Right. That's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. Like that, how is that a diss?
Yeah.
Checkbook diplomacy. Like, you know what I mean? Like
that was Obama, by the way. You can just say his name. That was Obama who said checkbook diplomacy. Yeah. But right, like, and it's funny you say that because there's this connotation here in this country that like if you're living, quote unquote, living off of the government, right, that's a bad thing. If the government is paying for your food, your housing, or, whatever the case may be.
The roads.
Right? Like that's a bad thing, right? You're lazy or, whatever the case may be. But like that's actually what the role of the government is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right? Like we elect these people, we put them into quote unquote power, we, whatever the case may be. And their entire job is to do what I told them to do. Your job is to do what I told you to do, which is make my life easier. Right?
Yeah.
And then we're told in this country, like that's a bad thing, right? Living off the government. But actually, like that is what the government is supposed to do. And Venezuela is a phenomenal example of that. Like, right? Hugo went in and was like, actually, this oil is not the United States. It's actually the people of Venezuela's oil.
Yeah.
Which like, yeah, of course, if somebody comes in my house and they like steal my lemonade and they're like, actually, this is my lemonade. What are you talking about? This is mine. It's in my house, right? Like,
it's gaslighting.
It is gaslighting. And like the United States has a horrible, horrible like history of doing that, going to somebody else's house and stealing their lemonade and saying, actually, this is mine.
Yeah. I mean, in Venezuela, during the Juan Guaido controversy 4 years ago, Venezuela has massive gold reserves and millions and millions are held in the Bank of England. And the Bank of England was like, they're not yours. They're Juan Guaido's.
Which is wild.
And even today, they still will refuse to return the gold that is Venezuela to the Venezuelans.
We need Killmonger. Killmonger, like just go up in there and just take the gold back and give it back to Venezuela. That's what we need. That's the hero we need.
You're hanging out with the Zine too much. I don't know.
I am. That's fine.
You're bringing them to work too much. I don't know. But no. And, there's just so many other ways that, like, if you think about the immense pressure that they are under, but they're still able to provide for the people, because that's who they are. That's what they care about. The other episode you were talking about, when you go into the Liberation Center, or maybe it was at the grand opening, this is where we care about people, and most people do. Like most people care about people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And they treat them like people, and not like, assets to be moved around, And so like we compare that to when the U.S. bails out the banks who caused the housing crisis in 2007, 2008, right? So in October of 2008, the U.S. government rescued the big banks, right? And this was $700 billion of our money, the biggest bailout in history. And that was just one of them. There were more to come. And it gave trillions of dollars in loan guarantees. And a couple months later, what's interesting is a reporter called around to ask the bankers what they had done to the money. And the responses were nearly all the same. I'm going to read a couple. JP Morgan Chase, which got $25 billion. We have not disclosed that to the public. We're declining to. Bank of New York Mellon, they got $3 billion. We're choosing not to disclose that. Morgan Stanley, they got $10 billion. We're going to decline to comment on your story. And so it went all the way down the line. Not one of the bailed out banks would or had to disclose any information about what they did with that money.
And that's our money.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they'll audit us for like a penny.
Yeah.
For real.
Absolutely. Yeah. I wish that was a joke. But right, if something is off, right, every year you're supposed to report you're supposed to file your taxes. And if you don't, talk to Red Fox, right? What will happen if you're not filing your taxes?
I filed my taxes over a year ago, so I'm fine.
Did you? Okay, great. Okay. Anyway, but the fact that you don't have to report on billions with a B, right? You don't have to report on billions of dollars for a crisis that is your fault also. Billions of dollars that is from us also, right?
Yeah.
I remember, 2008, I was in high school. I don't know where you were, probably a retirement home or something. But 2008, I was in high school. I was working at Taco Bell. Shout out to Taco Bell again. And both of my parents had lost their jobs. And granted, we were lucky enough that we were fine, but 16-year-old Dani was just I am the only person in this house who has a job right now, and it's at Taco Bell, making $7.25 an hour, right? The fact that, that was not unique. That was not a unique situation that I was in, that my family was in at that time. That there was only one person in the house who had a job, and it was a 16-year-old. But you don't have to tell us what you did with our money. Excuse you? No, actually you do. Actually, you need to tell me exactly where each penny went and
where
why,
it is currently.
Where it is currently, why you spent it on that. And I'll be damned if it's in a yacht or or up your nose or something, well, I don't know. It was 2008. Honestly, maybe they needed that, but where
they didn't need it. Maybe we needed that. The poor needed that.
The poor needed it. Yeah, it was a rough time. 2008 was a rough time. Yeah.
That's when I graduated college, by the way.
Is it? Okay.
I got a job as a towel boy at a gym.
Derek Ford has had every job there has ever been known to humankind, honestly.
So, and the U.S. did the same thing to Haiti. They just went and stole all their gold, and it's that's how I think JP Morgan was founded, So it just, it just shows such a stark contrast. And you're right. We could do it under capitalism, right? Eminent domain. They use eminent domain to destroy houses to make way for developing developers, commercial real estate, whatever. Yeah. But we could use it to to house people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, you no longer own this. We do. These people need housing. Boom. Done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. But right, the difference is that they wouldn't do that under capitalism, right? I keep saying we could do that under capitalism because we could. Yeah. Derek has Socialist Reconstruction over by him, which is a great book that people should check out. But there's so many things that could be done under capitalism and that the United States is unwilling to do, right? Which is a huge reason why it has to, why we're talking about under a socialist government, this is what could happen and what has happened.
Yeah.
Right? Not just some, utopian idea of like, this is what we could do and things are sunshine and rainbows. Like, no, this is actually what countries have done.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah. And are doing, under like, meanwhile, the U.S. government's like flying, simulated bombing campaigns on their coast. So they have to mobilize the army. They have to dedicate the resources to that. Yeah. But they're still feeding people, clothing people, making sure that people are all right.
Yeah. And I mean, that context is like, I think very important, right? Like Venezuela is like people are on boats and being bombed by the United States and they're still like trying to like feed everyone. They're still trying to house everyone. And meanwhile, that imagery of like, if Venezuela had missiles on the coast of New York, what would the United States do? Right? Like, the United States would like lose it, right? I'm not supposed to cuss on here, but like, they would lose their minds.
I think they do more than that.
And they would do more than that.
They would push some triggers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Venezuela is able to keep it together, like keep it together like militarily, keep it together and still feed and house their people on top of that.
Yeah. Which is, again, why it was so important that on Saturday we had over 65 demonstrations nationwide calling, stop the war before it starts, and why it's amazing that the, protesters against redistricting joined us, from the clips we heard earlier, and they were on our side. It shows us, like, people are open to socialism once you explain what it is in basic terms, and you get rid of the, fog of anti-communism that is the religion of the United States.
Absolutely. And I'm reminded, of Muhammad Ali right now, right? Talking about when he was getting drafted and talking about like, my enemy is not, this is Muhammad Ali talking, like my enemy is not Vietnamese people, right? Like my enemy are not brown people who live, Venezuela is not across the world, but like who live in a different country, right? My enemy are the people who are like, what do you mean you could house me just like at the snap of a finger, a decree, right? An executive order, Braun. You could house everybody in the city. Everybody in the state could have a house to live in. And yet you want to convince me that my enemy is Venezuela, who is feeding their people, who are housing their people, who are educating their people, right? Like Cuba is my enemy, and yet Cuba is sending aid to people, like free aid. Like here are doctors, right? Like Venezuela is sending energy to people in Louisiana. Yeah. Where I don't know if you've ever been to Louisiana. I was just there. Actually, it's been a minute since I was there. But
when were you there?
I was there. Last time I was there was about 6 years ago. Okay. I have family from Louisiana, and there's still the 9th Ward is still boarded up. Still like has like notes from when Katrina hit. Noting how many people are in the house, how many people are alive. Right. That was, when was Katrina? That was
2006.
Yeah. Right. Like I was going to say over 20 years ago, or almost 20 years ago now. And the United States spent billions of dollars a couple years later bailing out banks,
criminals, yeah,
right? Like
people who caused the crisis.
Billions of dollars. You could have spent billions of dollars to fix up New Orleans.
Yeah, that was back when Kanye made some sense. Wasn't that when he was like George Bush is racist?
George Bush hates black people.
Yeah, that's like the last true thing he ever said.
It was, unfortunately. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, this is why we have this show, because we want our listeners to. It helps us understand it, you know?
Absolutely.
Because knowing something in your head and talking to yourself is not the same as talking out loud to other people.
Yeah.
But it's not like a complicated thing. You read the Wall Street Journal, it's like a foreign language. They want it to be that way, you know? Mm-hmm. But really, what is more fundamental to us than like our ability to eat and like clothe ourselves, you know? And maybe Braun's solution for homelessness would be like, well, just sleep at your work, you know? Although he doesn't want people doing that. But, it's really not, the process is long and difficult, of course, but like it's not a hard thing. And especially in a country of such abundance. There's never been a socialist revolution in a country of overabundance. And that makes it so much easier. Will make it so much easier.
Absolutely.
And we can also pay reparations, to the oppressed nations here in the U.S. and everywhere else in the world. Immediately. Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
Within like a week, done.
We just need an executive order. Whatever. Yeah.
World peace.
Absolutely. That's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you're down to join that fight, to learn more about this, come down to the Indianapolis Liberation Center, and we'll be right back.
Yeah. Recognize the revolution. Recognize the revolution. Recognize the revolution. Yeah.
And we're back on Naptown People's Radio. So we're nearing the end of the show. And so, Dani, who gets a Circle City shout out this week?
All right. So this week's Circle City shout out goes to Wayne Kidd, which, by the way, is like a cool name. But anyway.
And that's his real name, too.
He didn't choose it, but that's a cool name. All right. So Wayne stays busy, but still finds time to not only attend events at the center, but donate his time and cooking chops to them. So the first PSL event he attended was our 2023 Black August Liberation Forum featuring Pastor Jamil Campbell, which we've also referenced on here as well. At the time, we were in the process of moving from our first center in the AMP building, to 1800 North Meridian Street. And when we started moving in, he approached us with an idea about early September. So Wayne has spent a lot of time in Africa, and he even saw Muammar Gaddafi speak, which hilariously makes Derek jealous every time he thinks about it. But he first started traveling to his homeland because of a spiritual Sufi grouping, and he's now affiliated with the Yasal Gui, or the Renewal. So their origins are traced to anti-colonial resistance in Senegal, where still today, the overwhelming majority of the Muslim population is Sufi. So throughout the brutal French colonialization and the inter-imperialist rivalries over their control of the people and its territory, Sufi organizations were primarily sites of resistance. Yasal Gui is a charitable religious organization dedicated to demonstrating the divine love of God worldwide in all areas of life. They are headquartered in Indianapolis, although they have multiple branches in different states. As a Sufi community, they function not only to worship and celebrate God, but to practice it in real life. Locally, they engage in various food distribution and other community projects, and you can find Wayne at all of them. So it was hard for them to find a venue because of, anti-Black racism, anti-African national chauvinism, as well as logistical needs. As in, the celebration doesn't end by the clock we use today, it ends in the early morning hours. But because the Liberation Center is independently funded by everyone who works on this show, our volunteers, member groups, and the community, we immediately said yes. We were thrilled to have one of the first events there, even before our grand opening, one that connected spirituality to anti-colonialism to helping people. Wayne's also a bomb-ass cook. I'm able to say that, even though I'm not supposed to cuss on here. But if you've ever had Wayne's cooking, it's always great. Every time he cooks for the Liberation Center, it's always vegetarian and vegan, which, like, y'all don't know this, actually, but I'm a vegetarian, so I'm always excited when Wayne comes. And for a few years, he ran Hot Lamb Indy, and we're trying to help him get back up and running. When we did our first grand opening, Wayne and his son catered, and they came through for us again at this last Friday's grand opening. And people loved it. Gloria Lariva, our special guest speaker, said, "Make sure to tell Wayne how good the food was," which, like, Gloria LaRiva is everything. So for her to be like hyping up somebody's food is just amazing. So expect to see Wayne around the center a lot more, and especially in a few months on an almost daily basis. Shout out to Wayne.
Shout out to Wayne, and also bringing it right back around because Gloria LaRiva has been to Venezuela 20 times and has eaten their food. So that's a real compliment to give to Wayne. Yeah. Wayne and I met actually in the steam room of our gym in like 2017.
That's such a Derek story.
And we just, over time became friends, and here we are. He's a great guy. All right, so this Thursday from 6:30 to 8 at the center, Indy Hope Packages will be assembling winter survival kits to distribute to our homeless neighbors. You can click on the show notes to donate, buy specific items, and all are welcome to the center that evening. Then on Saturday, they'll be distributing the kits at Luger Plaza. Throughout, they'll be raising consciousness about 2 points from the 10-point program, specifically point 6, making housing a human right, and point 8, expanding public spaces. Friday, come to the center between 6 to 9 p.m. for the opening of our first art show at our new center. Arte Mexicano in Indiana is proud to feature the work of Salvadorian-American painter Oscar Tolosa at the Fonseca Du Bois Gallery. I've seen the artwork, and it's quite striking and interesting. Friday's a great time to check it out, see our new space, and also visit our new store, of course. Saturday from 9:30 to 11, we have our weekly Circle City Sangha Mindfulness Meetup. And Sunday from 6 to 8, we have our weekly Emancipatory Motions Political Yoga session. And if you're in New York City this weekend, stop by the People's Forum Saturday at 6:30 for the launch of Shaka A. Shakur's first book, Manifestations of Thought, When the Dragon Comes, which I had the pleasure of editing closely with Shaka and my student, Tessa Cocker. Other panelists include Vernon T. Bateman, Leon Benson, Akili Shakur, and Dani Abdullah. If you can't join, you should be able to watch it on their YouTube page during or after the event, and head over to the Liberation Center store to pick up your copy of the book, our new Shaka shirts, stickers, and more. And finally, now that the global debut of the new documentary is behind us, the Shaka Shakur Freedom Campaign is scheduling screenings featuring different panelists across the country. So it's a way to continue raising awareness about Shaka's case, all political prisoners, and building a movement to tear down the prison walls for good. So as you can see, we stay busy here, so there's no need to skip back. You can just go to the website to check out the events. And that's it for this week in Naptown People's Radio. If you found this episode helpful or useful, pass it on, leave a comment, and send us some love at support.naptownpeoplesradio.com. The road ahead is long, but we walk it together. Study with your comrades, build with your community, and always remember, theory without action is paralysis, but action without theory is chaos. Once again, I'm your host, Derek Ford, here with my comrade and co-host,
Dani Abdullah.
Stay dangerous, stay disciplined, and stay in the struggle.
We trying to create a movement. We got a chance to do something in Indiana that brothers like myself been talking about for the last 40 years. When I first became political and we was organized behind the walls in the 80s and 90s, some of the stuff that we doing now with the different programs and the different institutions that we have and things like the Indy Center is things that we used to talk about and dream about doing. And now we doing them. See what I'm saying? We doing it. And we got to keep that momentum going. And it's also generation. So as the next generation come up, you know what I'm saying? It's on y'all to take it to the next level and take it to the next stage. Salute.